Hello friends, how's it going? I'm AleXarcs and today I'm bringing you some more Destiny, and in today's video I'm going to be bringing you the exotic heavy machine gun that is super good advice. Now this is another one of those exotics that you can get from exotic weapon bounties, and it's another one of those weapons that no one really likes or thinks is any decent, but once again, I don't know, it feels pretty beefy and pretty ridiculously good to me. So, I mean, you can see here I'm just tearing apart some acolytes, trying to obviously be decent with my ammo, once again, because it's a heavy, you know, if you're going to use it as an exotic, you want to try and be careful with your ammo, because you're not going to get a lot of it. Now, let me just find a quiet spot, and let me show you super good advice. So here it is. You can see we have a solar damage modifier on that, and we have, for a machine gun anyway, we have a really high rate of fire and a relatively low impact stat. If we consider that versus Thunderlord, you can see Thunderlord, a semi-high rate of fire, but a decent impact stat on that. So this is more of your really fast-firing, weak machine gun, but you've got the magazine size to kind of back that up, and you know, you should be able to still get some similar kind of DPS with it. You can see there the range stat is pretty low. Stability, now that looks to be a semi-decent stability, but this gun does kick quite a lot, and you're about to see what I mean when I do a little test in a minute's time. The reload speed is also pretty low as well, but I think you can upgrade that if you want. I'll show you the skill tree in a second. But the key thing with super good advice are the two skills we can see at the bottom there. Almost all shots that miss their target will return to your magazine, and kills with this weapon grant bonus damage for a short time. Now, you know, super good advice, almost all shots that miss return to the magazine. It's kind of helpful. You know, you would expect that you're going to hit your target anyway. You're not going to deliberately want to miss your target, but the problem with this gun is it kicks around so much that this actually ends up being pretty helpful. I don't know what the proc rate on this is. It is quite high. I'm about to show you that as well in my little test, but yeah, it's kind of a hard weapon to use compared to some of the other MGs that have quite low recoil or have the rodeo perk on it. That means the longer you fire it, the more stable it becomes. A point aside, you can increase the reload speed on this with this stat here, Flared Magwell, but you do lose a bit of range. I much rather prefer range over the reload speed when I'm using this gun. So I think it's probably time that I show off this gun. Now, like I said, recoil is an issue, and we have that perk, super good advice, that means that almost all shots that miss will return to the magazine. Now, let me just reload. So we've got basically a full clip. We've got 53 rounds here, and all I'm going to do is just aim at the horizontal, and I'm just going to hold the trigger down, and we're going to see how long it takes me to burn through those rounds and where my recoil kick finishes up. Do we need a countdown? 3, 2, 1, shoot. Now you can see that I'm firing off rounds, and most of the time they are being returned back straight into the clip. The proc rate can be quite high. I'm not too sure what it is, but it's not 100%, that's for sure. And you can see here the kick. We basically topped out the kick here. We're just aiming straight up now. No idea how many bullets we fired, but it's definitely not 53, that's for sure. And there we go. And you can see that come all the way back down. So yeah, that little test there has just proved two things. Okay, we have the super good advice perk that gives us our ammo back if we miss. It's not 100%, but it's still quite high. But the other key issue is the stability. This thing does kick quite a lot, and you constantly have to readjust for where your rounds are going to be aiming. So, you know, the bad stability and bad kick, twinned with the fact we've got that super good advice perk, means that you know, you are going to get the most use out of your bullets more often than not. You know, and in all fairness, aside from that, I mean, the gun is actually, it is really manageable. It's just you're going to have troubles trying to take out enemies at long range. And, you know, if you're trying to do that, then you're using it all wrong anyway. This is more of just like a horde slaying machine. You know, as a machine gun, it's always going to kick about a lot. But if you're accurate enough and you can handle the kick, then it's really not an issue at all anyway. Like I said, it's got solar damage modifier, so it is good against your wizards and your shanks on nightfalls and other such events where they decide to be all fire shields. You can see here it can be quite difficult to keep a lock on someone's head to get the shots in, but this is a mob slayer, but it's also really good against your beefier targets as well. Unlike some of the other exotics I have reviewed. So all in all, Super Good Advice is actually an all-round gun. After all, it is a heavy MG. The key problem is when you actually think about it as an exotic weapon, what makes it really exotic versus corrective measure or any other kind of MG? Just because you're penalized with severe kick, but you are forgiven by having that Super Good Advice perk, does that really make it an exotic weapon? Does it allow it to have that title? I don't know. At the end of the day, it almost just plays out like a semi-decent MG. So, you know, it's hard to see the true benefits of this being an exotic. At the end of the day, though, it is nice to have those perks, but, you know, are you much more worthwhile having a much safer, much better machine gun to have in that slot? And it doesn't even need to be an exotic. Like I say, corrective measure or Song of Yet, or, you know, against all odds, I think as well. It's a pretty decent one. Okay, fire rates and damage output stats are slightly different, but you know, you could get a much more dependable MG than Super Good Advice, and you wouldn't be taking up the exotic slot either. Well, like I mentioned earlier, you know, you would seriously have to, you know, think about having this in your setup because of it being an MG, an exotic heavy weapon. You're going to be not getting too much in the way of ammo for this thing. So, you know, are you going to want to have an exotic that you're going to have to be careful with ammo with? I don't know, you know. I prefer not to. I usually don't use exotic heavies for that very reason. You have to keep popping ammo synths, which are on cooldown, and other such things. So, it's not ideal for an exotic, but don't get me wrong, Super Good Advice works just as well as any other exotic, any other gun. It's just, is it really worth the exotic slot in your loadout? Probably not. And would I use it in raids? Once again, probably not. Maybe Nightfalls, if it was a solar burn Nightfall, maybe you could see the benefits in running it there. Otherwise, it's just a good MG, good all round. Okay, accuracy, it's lacking, but that Super Good Advice perk does come in handy. It does pull it back a wee bit. I'm going to have to be a bit cheeky here because I haven't got ammo, so I'm going to have to break the creed and use a different gun just to get a heavy ammo drop. That's nice, thank you. With regards to PvP, once again, it's a case of, I think there are better MGs out there that don't take up your exotic slot. So, would you want to be running Super Good Advice? I personally wouldn't, once again. Against all odds, or corrective measure or something is much more helpful. You know, you've got greater impact, the stability's better, and, you know, key feature, you're not using your exotic slot. So, Super Good Advice, like I said, you get it from a bounty, an exotic weapon bounty that is, and you get it from the Voice in the Wilderness. And basically you start off, you have to go to Mars, and dig out loot chests. Once you've found the gun, you take it to the gunsmith. You then have to buy a ammunition module from Xur for a coin. You then also have to kill 500 enemies with the gun. You gain more points for headshots and sprees, and if you use rocket launchers, you actually, for every rocket launcher kill, you lose 5 points. So yeah, it's an interesting gun, but once you got it, you don't have those perks on, so it is quite difficult to use. You don't have your super good advice perk, so every shot you miss, you are missing, which isn't really ideal for anyone. But yeah, like I said, PvE, it's an okay gun, but I'd probably only use it specifically on solar burn nightfalls or weeklies. I'm not going to be using this really in any kind of raid or any, you know, non-burn nightfall. It's just too kind of average an MG for that. PvP in the Crucible, like I say, there's other MGs that are much better out there anyway, so it's more of a gun just for fun, just to have a mess about with, and if you do get those odd solar burn occasions, pull this out and have a little bit of fun. But super good advice. It is a good gun, don't get me wrong, but so many of the guns in Destiny are, and it's more of a situational thing more than anything. So yeah, super good advice. If you get the bounty, go for it. Try and get hold of it. It'll be a bit of a pain to use initially, but all exotics are until you've got their perks unlocked. But yeah, it's probably not one you're going to be using to destroy raids and nightfalls really. But you know, still, I would recommend picking this up. I'm about to get overwhelmed here. Anyway guys, I've been AleXarcs. I've been discussing a super good advice heavy exotic machine gun. I hope you found this video helpful and helps you understand the gun a little bit better as well. And you know, please rate, comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys in my next video. Bye. Oh, I'm out of ammo. Thought it was going to be amazing, kill everyone off right at the end, but alas, no. Anyway, bye!